hi! You caught me making a bad decision. Speaking of bad decisions, let's take a look at some bad comic book tattoo art.
Comic tropes. Comic tropes.
Hello! Welcome to Comic Tropes. I'm your host, Chris. While the idea of marking your skin is something that can go back all the way to the Stone Age, the modern idea of tattoos is a lot more modern than that, at least in the West. We can track that back to 1796. Now, at that point in time, we had Captain Cook on the HMS Endeavour traveling the world with his crew exploring. And in that year, one of his naturalists observed how the Polynesian tribes would mark their skin with tattoos that we would still recognize today. They took those ideas back to Europe, and it started to become very popular among sailors initially, and then eventually it even spread into the high class. So the idea of tattoos fascinates me when it comes to comic books because that is just such a permanent mark of your fandom. It's really saying that, hey, I take this character and it's part of my identity. So all of that said, I don't have much leeway for bad tattoos. I would never make fun of bad fan art because that can be practice. You know, that can just be showing your passion. But when it comes to a tattoo, that means that you've got a professional who does this for a living and you who wants the tattoo, and you can discuss that together. You can go over concepts, ideas, revisions. You can see their former work. There's really not a good excuse for a bad tattoo, but that's exactly what we're going to take a look at today. We're going to have fun looking at tattoos that just missed the mark. Let's get started. In 1929, Popeye debuted in the popular comic strip Thimble Theater by E.C. Seeger. He was a sailor who spoke in a silly accent, and he had an iconic set of anchor tattoos on his forearms. An anchor like Popeye makes sense as a tattoo. Even Popeye can be a cool tattoo if you like the character. But why would you tattoo Popeye porking olive oil over a barrel? At its best, that might get a light chuckle out of someone once, but you're going to have to see it every day. Superman tattoos are a classic. Shaq had one, and it helped him star in the movie Steel. Basically, we should all be furious at the artist who gave him that tattoo. But at least his tattoo was well done. How about this take on the classic Superman logo, which shows skin peeling away, cartoony blue fire, and some sort of steel plates? About 4 ideas that go together about as well as chocolate and mayonnaise. Superman is many things. A reporter from Midwestern America. An alien. A superhero. He's not well known as an angel, but that didn't stop this person from coming up with a bad idea. It looks like Superman's also squatting to push out a turd. You know, like angels are famous for. A Superman-Batman split-face tattoo is not an inherently bad idea, but this artist clearly based each half on an existing illustration and didn't bother to account for the heads looking in different directions. It looks less like the composite Superman and more like the meth addict Superman. When you get a tattoo, you have the opportunity to see that artist's sketch before they commit it to your skin. So what's the excuse here? This is the definition of off-model. Let's take a look at what he'd look like in the movies like this. Yeah, that's nightmare fuel. You know what's cool? Batman. You know what's not cool? Alf as Batman. Batman's been around for 80 years. Alf lasted 4 seasons before being canceled on a cliffhanger. But now he's back, in bad tattoo form. Marvel. Sure, I get it. Marvel's movies have a lot of fans, and the artist here is very talented. So what's wrong with... Captain America is the embodiment of patriotism. It's not hard to make him look cool. You know what's uncool? Reminding everyone of 9/11 with a sad Captain America. Maybe he's sad because he's not helping save anyone. Hey, it's the Hulk versus a Fantastic Four roided up on human growth hormone. Unless someone gave this tattoo as an elaborate prank, I'll chalk this up to a pure cringe fail. That anatomy is simultaneously incorrect and over-rendered. It also displays a lot of confidence to use up the entire back for this one mistake. Here's a Hulk tattoo that accomplishes two things: looking like an idiot and making the person wearing it look like an idiot. Hey, remember how The Avengers was a popular movie? Remember how Minions was also a popular movie? Do you remember that they have nothing else in common? No? Well, instead of a joke, this guy settled for a pair of references. Here's what happens when you let your 8-year-old brother tattoo your back. Green Lantern shows up and Superman gets the worst beard ever. Then everyone gets rendered by an artist who's probably supremely confident about his crayon skills and figured it would translate to tattoos. Do you know how Spider-Man is always trying to bite people with his terrifying fangs? Remember how Spider-Man is always having to fight off those spiders that fall in love with him? No? Well, you'll never forget now. Sometimes Spider-Man ends up as a tattoo seemingly given out as a form of prison torture. The line work on this looks like the result of broken pens and burning paper clips. Let's see. On the left, we have a Spider-Man with tiny goat legs and a picnic blanket. On the right, a Spidey with the world's largest thumb, maybe a missing foot, and just happily kicking some janky spider webs. You know, between the two, I'm going to give them both a hard pass, and I'd try facing the Green Goblin myself. The artwork for this Spider-Man tattoo is whatever. Maybe some people would like it. I'm just hung up on how the Spider-Man in the upper right seems to have a broken neck or maybe some sort of a tumor. Do not hurt me, I have a disease. Hey, it's the Superfriends. A poor idea based on a kitsch cartoon. Poor artwork, poor layout. This guy was the Pokemon trainer of bad tattoos. He had to catch them all. Star Wars has a famous character with some elaborate tattoos. Maybe a Star Wars tattoo could... Oh wow. Oh. Well, maybe he's paying for this tattoo in an installment plan and he's only one payment in. Here's a Star Wars tattoo that is apparently the result of blindfolding a tattoo artist and telling him to do a Star Wars tattoo based on his memories of seeing the movies once 10 years ago. Okay, that's a cool style. Princess Leia looks good. Too bad they forgot to take 5 seconds to check the grammar. I love the Ninja Turtles. I would consider putting a Ninja Turtle tattoo on myself. I wouldn't try to make it look like a dick and then hide it under my toe. This guy has just unsubscribed from Common Sense. Here's a tattoo based on the movie adaptation of Frank Miller's comic 300. And here's the cartoon version. It looks like it would be an exclusive at Hot Topic. Here's a tattoo with a pretty good rendition of Wolverine, and then a version of Gambit that was performed by the first artist's brain-damaged twin. Here's a Gambit. Walk around in public with that tattoo and try not to get laughed at. The mutant power of this tattoo artist was to create the worst-looking tattoo where you could still recognize Wolverine and Nightcrawler. Wolverine looks to be in physical pain in this form. Nightcrawler looks like he's grown out of Wolverine's head and sprouted the strangest beard ever. This is the kind of tattoo that should get the artist's license permanently revoked. Did you think the 90s was extreme? Wolverine got his adamantium ripped out, and then he started looking like a monster. Well, now he's even more extreme, cutting his way right out of some poor soul who paid actual money for this. Wolverine looks like he's ready to yell at us about how extreme pizza rolls and Capri Sun are. Until recently, the saddest tattoo in X-Men history was Magneto's brand from a Nazi camp when he was a child. But now there's this. This man should be legally required to wear 2 shirts at all times. This tattoo artist has talent. I'm serious. This is well rendered. But it's also kind of gross. Like, who wants to walk around with their leg looking like it's ripping apart and dumping out intellectual property belonging to AT&T and Disney? The Joker loves 2 things, smoking pot and having gingivitis. This squashed up happy Joker may not look too bad, but look what would happen if he looked like this in The Dark Knight. Still looks better than Jared Leto's Joker.
Anything else you wanted?
I almost forgot the most important part. I would like the word damaged on my forehead because I'm all messed up, you know?
Damaged?
Yeah, because I'm all messed up.
This Joker looks upset, like a cartoon bomb exploded in his face. Instead of being a prankster or a gangster, this Joker is a grumpy old man. Compare that with this Joker, who looks like he had a mildly amusing time rolling around in the mud. right next to a Harley Quinn that was clearly done by a different artist who had a fetish for crossed eyes. What if a tattoo artist took on a fairly recent and popular image of the Joker and tried to make it worse? Could they beat this one? I don't think so. I really don't think so. Speaking of tattoo artists misinterpreting someone else's work, here's an example of a pretty good tattoo. Another person had their tattoo artist copy it. The other person seemed to attempt to copy without understanding anything about anatomy, layout, or rendering. And then they even copied the original person's nipple into the artwork. Some poor jerk is walking around with an extra nipple on his arm. Why so serious? How about a Joker that asks, why so early male pattern baldness? This Joker gets bullied by Kite Man. Here's an okay idea, completely ruined by someone that made it up as he went along and didn't space anything properly. It looks like it reads, why do we falso we cannot earn topic ourselves up? That's probably more than enough for today. I'm just amazed at how, when you go for a tattoo, you have time to consult with the artist, look through their book of work, and make sure that you're making a decision. You don't have to haggle with some hobo you found in a back alley that seems to have found some ink and some needles out of a dumpster. People, don't settle for this stuff. This is a permanent decision. All right, let's cleanse our visual palettes by taking a look at some fun fan art that came in this week. Tyler Garcia illustrated me as a wizard. I'm still waiting on my invitation to Hogwarts. Carter sent in a sketch of me in his own style. You can see more of his work on Instagram. Gushwell Brooks from South Africa sent in a comic strip and put me in it. He says you can find more of his comics by following the hashtag BBComicsZA on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Salvador Villegas illustrated this artwork of me and my superhero identity. Not cool sharing that with the world, Salvador. You blew my cover. John Paul Nicholas shows you all what my Zodiac form would look like based off of my recent look at Spider-Man Zap's Mr. Zodiac. You can find more of John's art on Instagram. John Bain illustrated me as the Joker, which is disturbing and cool. He also asked me to say hi to Christine, so I sure hope she's expecting that and that it went over well. Speaking of the Joker, artist Seth Leoric gave me Joker's long chin and nose for his submission. E.J. Sue, a professional artist you might recognize from books like Transformers, created the ultimate form of my sidekick Infotron. Beware Infozilla. Finally, artist Statutory Grape sent in this comic book cover, envisioning me sharing a story with Batman and Joker. Grape has more art on DeviantArt and Instagram. Okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this slight diversion from the normal content that I produce. Normally, I look at either comic book history or the techniques of writers, artists, people that work in comic books. So, instead, I just wanted to do something fun. I needed a little bit of a lighter week because I'm gearing up for a bigger project down the road. So, please keep watching. If you would like to have some artwork featured on this channel, I'm always happy to share that. It's a real privilege for me to get to do so. If you want to do that, just send it in to this email address, comictropes@gmail.com. Make sure it has something to do with comic tropes, and I'll definitely share it. Then I will pick one of the entrants to win a random Gachapon prize. This week, E.J. Sue took his name out of the running. He said he didn't need a Gachapon prize, so we're looking at 8 entrants. Running the ball, Hopper here. And let's open this up. Gonna take a look at who won. It is number 6. Number 6. And number 6, I'm looking here at my list, John Bain. John, you won a Gachapon prize. Let me close this up and we'll see what you won. I will be getting some more interesting Gachapon prizes from Japan later this year, the very, very end of the year. In the meantime, one of my viewers kindly donated a bunch of Hellboy Gachapons. Let's take a look at what one we get this week. Looks like that's Cronin, the assassin. Anyway, it's hard to see it, but I'm going to send that your way, John. I appreciate everybody watching. If you'd like to support this show, I have a Patreon, I have a Ko-fi account, I even have merchandise like shirts and stuff, so those are in the links below, just below the video. And yeah, just come on, people. I would love to see more good tattoos related to comic books. And I have seen many in person. I've seen some people with some cool G.I. Joe tattoos, like the Arishikage symbol on the forearm. I think that one's been cool. I've seen some really well-rendered stuff based on artists like, Alex Ross is a pretty popular one. I've seen some really cool pieces. If you have a cool comic book tattoo, you should share it with the rest of us. Remember that I've got social media accounts on stuff like Twitter. There's Comic Tropes on Twitter, and there's a Comic Tropes Facebook page. So if you have cool tattoos, share them. We'd love to see them. Otherwise, just tell us in the comments below what you think would make for a good comic book tattoo. I just had fun looking at some weird ones. There's no excuse, folks. You should know what the artist is capable of before you get the tattoo. There's no excuse. Anyway, I had fun. I hope you had fun. I've got some big stuff coming up. I've got a guest star coming pretty soon, and we're even going to travel to another country pretty soon. So we've got some big stuff coming up. Stick with us, and until then, keep reading comics.